The night outside was cruel, the kind of cold that seeps deep into bone and memory. For 88-year-old Elijah, there was nowhere left to run from it. No home, no family, and no door that would open for him. The 24-hour laundromat had become his last refuge. He was lying on the unforgiving linoleum floor, his thin body curled up beside a humming dryer, stealing just enough warmth from the machine to keep his hands from shaking uncontrollably. But the heat felt borrowed, temporary, just like everything else in his life. His clothes hung off him in tatters, threadbare and torn, each rip a stitch in the fabric of a long, hard lifetime. Exhaustion pressed down on him heavier than the cold ever could. It wasn't long before a customer noticed the old man huddled in the corner and felt uneasy. The call went out to the police. Loitering, trespassing. Deputy Carter responded to the call, expecting another routine encounter. He'd handled dozens just like it. You ask the person to leave, file the report, and move on to the next one. But when he stepped inside the bright, sterile laundromat and drew closer to the figure on the floor, something stopped him cold. It wasn't the sight of a man trying to stay warm. It was the hat. Faded letters curved across the front, still legible despite the years. Vietnam veteran. Then Carter saw Elijah's face. It was a face etched by time, hollowed out by loss, with eyes that carried a fear no one his age should still have to know. In that moment, the deputy made a choice. He didn't tower over the old man. He didn't raise his voice or start issuing commands. Instead, in a room that had suddenly fallen quiet, Deputy Carter lowered himself onto the dirty floor. He crossed his legs and sat right there beside Elijah, shoulder to shoulder. He didn't treat him like a suspect, but like an equal. No, he treated him like someone who deserved profound respect. "It's warm here," Carter said gently, his voice soft as he nodded toward the rumbling dryer. Elijah glanced at the shiny badge on the deputy's uniform, bracing himself for what usually came next. Being told to move, to leave, to disappear. He'd heard it all before. "It's the only warm place I've got," he whispered, his voice raspy and frail. "I've slept in a lot of beds, officer, but none of them ever felt like home." Something in Carter's chest cracked right open. He saw the holes in Elijah's worn-out shirt and couldn't help but imagine a much younger man, standing tall in a crisp uniform, standing watch decades ago on some foreign soil. A man who had sacrificed pieces of himself so that others, people he'd never even meet, could sleep safely in their warm houses. Carter looked Elijah in the eyes, his own filled with a newfound determination. "We can do better than this," he said, his voice firm but kind. "I know a place for veterans. It's not a gym floor. It's not a shelter line. It's a real room." From that moment on, Carter didn't treat Elijah like a problem that needed to be removed. He treated him like a man who had once served above him. A man who had earned a debt of gratitude that had clearly gone unpaid for far too long. For the next 20 minutes, the deputy stayed right there on the laundromat floor, just listening. There was no rushing, no impatience, no judgment in his posture or his words. He just listened as Elijah shared his stories about the war, about the friends he'd lost, and about the years that had slipped by, one after another, leaving him unnoticed and alone. Slowly, as the minutes ticked by, the fear in Elijah's eyes was replaced by a flicker of trust. When Elijah finally got up, he didn't have to do it alone. Deputy Carter stood with him. Together, they walked out of the laundromat, not toward the cold, dark back of a patrol car, but toward the promise of warmth, a hot meal, and a real bed that, for the first time in a very long while, might actually feel safe. This story is a powerful reminder that sometimes restoring a person's dignity isn't about enforcing rules or asserting authority. Sometimes it begins with a simple, human act. The choice to sit down, to listen, and to see the person, not the problem. It starts with seeing the humanity in one another. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, please give it a like and consider subscribing for more content that celebrates the good in the world.